Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone out there from wherever you're joining us. This is the Keshe Foundation, Spaceship Institute's public teaching in English, Monday, October 16th, 2017. And today is the Understanding Plasma Science series, part 4 of 12. We have Jim and Lisa McDonald with us, and also Dr. Rodrigo Vildosola. And they're going to be covering health, nature, and soul topics again for the Understanding Plasma Science series. I'm your host, Flint Mulhausen. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Jim. Welcome, Lisa, and welcome, Dr. Rodrigo.
Hello, Flint. How's everybody today? Well, I hope
Very well.
People are good. I hope people have been enjoying it so far. There's still a lot of information to come. So I think we'll ask Dr. Rodrigo to get going, because health is always the important one.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be again with all of you and sharing all the wonderful information of the Keshe technology. So, would you allow me to share this screen, please?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you. So now, the Plasma Science Workshop number 4, talking about health. It's interesting, all the topics we're going to call now. We're going to talk about interaction of body fields. Understand a little bit, trying to understand how the body interacts with all the energy fields and how the body creates diseases. So that's the main point. But then we have to understand step by step of what happened around us. But in order to understand a little bit more, is see this image on the right side. It's like how represent the plasma. Every single element in the world, or this body, or the body has, let's see it represented on this image like a strong field. Every plasma, including the body, has a strong primal field in the center. In these cases, we'll call it soul, and that we'll going to explain a little bit more, so you will start understanding how the soul controls the whole body. The outer edges of the field, as unwind, shows itself as a physical entity. This is the body. So if everything, as we've been saying before, everything in the world has to be a balance. The plasma has to find the balance. When we lost that balance, either if it's a lot in every cells, if it's a lot of energy, it causes division. But it's a different energy affecting the energy, it causes diseases. So in the body, all those fields are connected to the emotions through the brain. And this is interesting to understand this. Remember the last time Lisa showed you this photo. Mr. Keshe he grown in the medical field, a family in the medical field. He understood a lot of things about the body and the soul, and trying to find out where the soul is located. And he found this spot that is very constant on those studies that he was seeing on an MRI. You see little black spot in the center. So as we said, the center is the control of energy. So the brain, in the center of the brain, which is located the soul. And I know it's hard to for a lot of people to understand that, but it is the way it is. The soul is located in the center. This is the control center of this machine. We are not the machine. We are that soul that is located inside that little spot. That's where we are. That's where we control the whole body. And we change the body depending on the fields of energy. And those fields of energy can change around us. So not sustaining life through interaction of fields, we divide it in 3 aspects. Physicality, all the amino acids which are made up for interaction of fields between the earth and sun, that comes, remember, the carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen, and the minerals for the planet. So those interactions of those elements brings up the physicality. We found that we form that physicality. The emotions are fed to us through our senses directed to the brain, through our sight, hearing, smell, touch, taste, as well as the breath. And to give an example, so you start understanding, because here now there's a new thing for you, because you are starting to join us, to join this new technology. To give an example, sight. How can the sight affect my emotions? And then give an example, as I said, let's see the disease like the Alzheimer. Yeah, as we have heard from many times from the medical field that Alzheimer is what's happening is damage in the brain. So lost interaction of the brain with the body. So what happened? Most of those people, they're living in one place. Old people, and you change those people from one place to another, one country to another, if they don't like it. Inside of them, inside of the brain, it says, I don't like this place that I'm in. Probably, as we have seen, families who have, or parents who have the children who have a new job, and they change the whole family, bring the family to a better house. But those old people, they used to live in an old house. They bring they remember everything what life is. So, and when they change it, they always give, their mind is in the past, in that place, and they like to live in that, and they wanted to live in that place, not in the new place. So they're blocking themselves, and that is saying that I don't like this place that I'm living now. It might be beautiful, it is, but I miss my old place. I miss my friends. I miss my family and the other place. And they start blocking themselves inside the brain. And that's what happened. The brain, the subconsciousness, says, okay, well, my soul says, I don't like this place. I don't like to live here. So it started to shut down part of the brain. That's what happened. And we have seen, if we treat those patients emotionally, they're coming back to life. So, and given another example, touch. What can touch be affected on? Emotionally can be affected on the body. You see, a lot of people, like for example, people that are being abused, and they don't want to be touched again. So they started creating diseases on the skin in order to keep the people away from them. So little by little, we start to understand how the sense of organs of sense affects or interacts with the emotions of the body and affects the structure and change it. Now, a lot of people now, we call them alternative medicine, and doctors are starting to work on the emotions. They see better results, bringing people to normal, bringing people to work normally, treating the diseases to get rid of them. Is better than the traditional medicine, as we've seen with medicines, with pharmaceuticals, all that we haven't seen complete resolve of any diseases. So with a lot of people now, a lot of doctors are starting to work on this field of emotions. They see they changing. They can get rid of any disease, cancers, you name it, whatever disease. We have heard for many years that from the medical field that 98% of the diseases are psychosomatic. And we have, and sometimes we ask people, this is, what does it mean? They have no idea. That means that some kind of emotions are involved in every disease. So that's the origin or the seed of any disease are some kind of emotion. So those doctors now, they understand this field and work a lot on the emotions. They see that how certain emotions are related to certain diseases or certain part of the body related to that. So that's important to understand the organ success. And at the end, I put breast. For somebody might be a surprise to put that, but those emotions, we have like radars on the body to attract the emotions, to feel the emotion. The breast. When you give an example, when you watch a movie, when there's some kind of emotions involved, and you are facing that TV or movie or theater, and you see how the emotions of that movie is starting to affect you because it comes through the breast. If you block your breast, you see that movie on your side way, not facing forward. That movie, you see the effect is totally different. So you will get familiar with this in the future, how the breast affects that kind of or it's a radar of emotions, attracts of emotions. So we're going to be, as I said, more familiar with all these organs. And the soul is a control center of the body, fed by the fields of everything around us, including our emotions. How we process the information around us determines whether we expand the soul or not. So as I said, in the environment, remember one thing: how the body's made is being formed through this interaction of fields. Bring those elements plus the elements of the earth. And it's important to understand this because, as I explained before, those elements that we see on the left side, and those elements exist in the whole universe. But every planet goes around the sun, so these elements varies around this in the universe. In order to keep that balance on Earth, we have plants. Yes, it looks beautiful to have different kinds of plants, but there's a reason why we have a lot of plants, different plants, because every single plant brings an environment different kinds of elements like oxygen, like nitrogen, hydrogen, etc. Everything around the world, that's different plants because it keeps the balance. If we lost this balance for different conditions we explain in the future, we create imbalance in the body as well. So there's two ways of create diseases in the body: physicality or emotionally. So if we have an imbalance in the body, because we have seen now there's a lot of pollution in the environment, a lot of destructions of the plants, so creates imbalance in the environment, affects the body, but also the emotions. So there's two ways that we have to deal with the body, understand what the diseases are, if it's affected by the conditions of the environment or it's affected by conditions of the emotions. And also, we have seen in the body that everything in the body, there's layers. When we start talking about how we create energy, nanocoating plate, etc., we create layers because it creates a different fields. But we'll call it, when we do this in the metals, the nanocoating, we call it nano layers. That means a small one. But in the body, we have different layers. We're not calling nano. It's a different layers because it creates a different kinds of fields. In every part of the body, every single part of the body has layers. We never understood, I as a doctor, we never understood why we have a lot of layers in every single organ. And the reason is because every single organ creates a different condition, a different fields. So that's different fields attracts different elements. So the skin has layers. So it's not that we had a lot of layers to protect ourselves against the environment. In a way it is, but not necessarily. What really happened is we have different layers in the skin to attract different elements. That is the way. And I put this one, that's what we call nanocoating. You will be familiar in the future what the nanocoating is when we put on caustic. And I put this one because we have to understand as well what happened with the food. So this one is when we put any plates like copper, for giving an example, on caustic or burning, it expands those molecules and starting to create energy around those elements. So that's what happened. But this is nanocoated, and the platelets are small particles. But this is like this. So once you separated those cells, those molecules, it creates energy. But that energy is happening in the body. Every single cell in the body is connected with fields of energy. Every single one, every single cell. And those fields are different depending on what kind of organ. So that's why we have, how many times we have heard what is inside is outside, what is above is below. So this is what happened in the universe, interacts with fields and creates this energy. This is well inside of us, or in the body. That energy, every single cell interaction between them, and it creates energy to bring balance and to and have different properties, every single organ. So, and this is, you're going to have example is what is outside is inside, whatever happened on the, in order to create fields, what happened when we used a nanocoated plates, when we, that you're going to be familiar later on. But so, as I said, you have to understand, when we nanocoated, we put those elements with caustic, it expand those molecules, and we see layers. And that's every single layer interaction between to bring energy, to create energy. And we see different places and different shapes of those molecules and on the plate, and see the same way we see it in the organs. We see layers, we see different shapes of the surface when it interacts with field. When something comes inside, like this is in the stomach, it creates a different energy and attracts different elements. In the stomach, like this in the body, to understand, when we eat, it comes different kinds of elements, and every part of the digestive system has a different layers, so it will attract different kinds of elements. Not that everything that comes to the stomach, it will be all the kind of energy that the food comes, it will pass through the stomach. It doesn't. So every single element that we ate has a different energy, and that it will be attract for different kind of fields, depending what the shape of or the structure is in the organ, in the body. And see we see these image on the skin with different layers that we see. In the medical field, we always said, oh, we have different layers in order to protect us. We have a shield. And as I said, in a way it is, but it creates fields of energy. It creates interaction of fields and attracts those elements. And this in the skin attracts the carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen constantly. It attracts those elements through the skin. As well in the bones, we have different layers. We have, because here in the bone, we have what we call the bone marrow. It is where all the cells are made. So it's like the fabric of cells. If the body has some problems and it needs to be repaired, the bone marrow creates those cells, what we call it stem cells. So are inside, and that has to be in that area because it has different layers, creates a different energy, so attracts energy, understand what's going on in the body, and they start making all those cells to bring them to the body. So every single part of the body has layers, so because there is interacting of fields. Everything, every part of the body, no matter what part of the body we see, bone, muscles, heart, brain, everything have layers. But not because layers we were in the medical field, we were saying this, it's layers because it's absorbed in different ratios and different speed, but it's not. It's what really happened is fields, different interaction of different fields, so it attracts different elements. So each body organ is surrounded by layers. These layers are allowed to create energy fields or absorption of the fields needed to keep the organ healthy. So every single organ will have different layers that attract different kinds of elements. And every organ and different part of the body, including our skin, will have different layers. These different layers acts as filters, only allowing certain fields to interact with the different parts of the body. And you have to be familiar that every organ is different. Every organ, that's what has a different functions in the body. So what kind of energy? This energy, every organ will attract every single different different energies in every part of the body. So that's what we having a different diseases, different effect on every field affects different organs. And so in the current science, it says that the body the body tells us that we absorb the energy, all the energy that absorb all energy needs through the food that we eat. This is whatever we eat that pass through the stomach. Well, that's what the energy that we need in order to survive. We need just the food, and it's wrong. In the body, when we eat something, it comes to the stomach. The acids, the chloric acid that we have in the stomach, it creates an effect like the expanding, like we have that we explained a little bit before about the nanocoating. They expand the molecules. It creates energy as well. When it comes to the food to the stomach, that interaction with those acids expand the cells and start creating energy and being absorbed in the body. Not that the food crosses the barrier of the stomach. It's only the energy. So actually, the energy, 80% of the energy comes through the skin and what we're breathing. All those elements, that's what the functionality of the skin is, to attract those elements in the body that the body needs. We feed ourselves through the skin and what we breathe. And just 20% comes through the food that we eat. So the skin attracts all those elements, what we said, the carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen, constantly comes through the skin. So we feed ourselves through that. And what we breathe, as soon as we breathe, that air passes through the mouth. It affects the body. It's changing. So every single part of the organ attracts different energy. As well as I said, the skin is the one. 80% of the energy that we need in order to survive comes through that, and 20% the food. It's not, as we were saying, as we understood before, that in order to survive we have to eat all the energy through the food, but it's not. It is incorrect. So if that energy comes to the skin, we have to understand how those energy affect the whole body. And if attracts this energy also in the future to understand or to deal with diseases, we can work with this this field of energy. There's a lot of technology that prove that we have a field of energy around our body. If we use this field of energy, knowing that is where we get all the elements in order to survive, so we can use this energy field to give the body what it needs, like medications, like elements, whatever we need to bring balance to the body. So in the future, we won't need to take pills, to take medications, because if we have that field around us, it attracts all the energy in order to keep life in this body. So we can change it. We're gonna learn how to create fields through of the medications. Whatever you have as a medication, we can transform it as energy. So we put that field of energy outside of your skin and attracts those elements that your body needs in order to affect the functionality of that part of the body that has a disease and changes to regenerate it. So we don't have to take pills, and we can avoid a lot of the side effects. So in the future, this is what we're working now on that field, to bring these elements that the body needs in order to change, to regenerate the body and get rid of diseases, not through through the way we used to do it, like as I said, to pills, to injections, IV. We can change everything, creating an environment. It's incredible, this field. When the medical field tried to start to addressing this field, the whole scenario is going to change, everything. But they don't address this. First of all, they don't understand what emotions are. They call them everything that, like psychosomatic in the medical field, they call them stress. Stress, if you know what the stress is, so you understand that word is hyperactivity of the body. So if they calm the body, they will be able to deal with the diseases. It's not true. This is not the way it is. Every disease, every emotions, there are different kinds of emotions affect the body. Because emotions are energy, and thus our energy comes through different organ sense of your body, and it will affect the body. So if we change that, the way of seeing every disease, that will be easier to understand them and easy to deal with them. So everything in the body is in a GAN state. So as I said, if we is energized, as well as the food enters the body, is turned to GANs. Everything is layers because it creates fields of interaction of fields to attract certain elements. As soon as we said, as soon as the food comes through the stomach, it turns to GANs, it turns to energy. So that's what we attract, energy. Whatever we don't need about the food that we eat, that's what we extract through the intestines. That's why you leave it in the toilet. So, but you only attract what you need through the food that you eat. This energy, just the energy, not the elements, not the structure, the physical structure of what you're eating. It's only the energy of those fields. As well, if we attract only the energy, we can. That's what also we're doing, creating energy, plasma energy of food. That if you put it on that outside of that field of your the field of your body, that field of energy that your body has attracts those elements. So in the future, we will need to eat anything. Just create a field of those energies that the body needs as a food. So the body will attract those. So you can feed yourself through those energies, through the skin. Through the skin. So just created that fields of those elements that your body needs, create outside the skin, and attracts, so will be attracted. So, as I said, food is GANs in the stomach and intestine, and only fields are absorbed through the layers of the intestine wall, not the physical, not the material, not literally, not the food. It's only the energy of that. So the body is full of energy. It's incredible energy fields in the whole body. And as I said, that's in a lot of the technology. They can prove that we are a field of energy, multiple fields of energy. And that's, if we learn how to interact with those energy, we can change any part of the body instantly. So. And the body has the ability to change everything as an energy to the matter. Like, for example, if it needs calcium for the bones, attracts the energy of the calcium from what we eat, and the body transforms the calcium in the matter state. So it comes like a bricks to put on the bones. And whatever energy, vice versa, if the body has to eliminate something that has energy, it transforms in matter state, and it eliminates, like the kidneys. The kidneys attracts or extracts something that the body doesn't need, so it turns into matter and is eliminated. So this is a wonderful field. This is a wonderful structure. The body is full of different kinds of energy fields. If we interact those fields, we can change the body in no time. Do you have any questions?
Okay, I can remind those attendees to raise their hands if they have any questions, and we'll get to you. And we'll also take a look at the chats if you type in your questions there in the Facebook, YouTube, or live stream chats. And we have Estella. Hello, Estella.
Can you hear me?
Just barely. Can you speak up or closer to the mic?
Now, can you hear me?
A little bit better.
Sorry. It's my first time using the Zoom
Okay.
here.
Well, just speak loudly. We can hear you a little bit.
Okay. We know the skin is the nano layer interacting with the field, but the field or the environment is pretty much toxic. That's why the new working with this, the question is, by working with the fields of the gangs, we will be able to eliminate the toxins that the environment give us, like, aluminum and all these metals that are kind of harmful for the body. Are you able to remove the toxins? I mean, I'm having hard time because we kind of have too many toxins, in our environment from the, let's say, Industrial Revolution. And how are we gonna heal having an environment, so toxic?
I understand your questions. First of all, we don't have nano layers in the skin. We have layers. That's the thing that we have to understand. It's not nano layers. A lot of people saying, "Oh, we have nano layers because when we deal with the plates and we nano coat it, we create nano layers, the small layers." No, the cells are not nano. It's just small cells. Cells that creates a different kinds of fields of energy. First of all. Second, we don't heal anything. We just change the environment. We're able to create units that creates environment, a pure environment, so the body can change it. You have the capacity. Every single body, when we were born, we have the capacity to deal with any disease. We can defend ourselves against any disease. But we've been exposed to so much pollution in the environment. We've been exposed to pesticides. We've been exposed to a lot of GMO or as you said, a lot of aluminum, mercury, lead that the food has. We have been exposed. So the vaccines, I'm not saying that the vaccines are wrong, but some vaccines, a lot of them, they has those metals that we don't need it, aluminum, mercury, lead, etc. So it creates imbalance in the body. So as I said, there's two ways to create diseases: imbalance in your body, in the physicality, and imbalance in your emotions. So we can create a different environments in order to your body respond to that problem. So you're gonna change. It's not healing, it's repairing the body itself. We can repair our body, but if we don't have that environment, we cannot deal with any disease. We cannot change because we need these elements. In this environment, well, when we create those units that we call health units, then we create an environment and we put those elements inside that your body needs in order to respond. Let me give you an example. Weird examples. You have a fish that is in the ocean and is in the water. It has the water of the ocean has certain elements, and then the fish is happy in that environment. If you take the fish and put him in the river, it won't be able to survive because it's water, but it's a different condition. So we changing as well the condition outside of the body, outside here in the atmosphere and on Earth. So we have to find a way to change that environment around us so we can deal with this any disease. Once we create that environment, our body respond to that environment and start dealing with any disease.
At the same time, you will be healing the natural environment. So maybe one day we don't have any more pollution.
Yes, but repeat, we don't healing, we changing environment, we changing the structure. That word healing, we don't use that healing because we don't heal anything. We just change, we allow the body to repair itself. But that word healing,
yeah, restoring would be better.
Exactly, restoring the body, restoring the environment. Yes, with this technology, we'll be able to use this technology to restore the environment. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The same would be with emotions, because emotion is connected to the belief system, and I think we need to change a lot of the belief system to not get into the negative and negative emotions, you know?
With all respect, it has nothing to do with the belief system. This is just you are exposed on different, like being exposed to environment, we exposed to different conditions, emotions, or effects something in the body and around our lives. And also in a way, you're right. This is the system. So when you understand that you have the capacity to create your own reality, you create everything around you. So whatever you think as well, you change it. If you're exposed to certain kinds of emotions inside your brain, inside your subconsciousness, you create that problem. So you create diseases. You create, you change the structure of your body. Yes, if we are exposed or constantly to the system that the system doesn't allow us to think, to focus on something, we're not going to change. For example, if you're thinking all the time on healing yourself or changing yourself, restructuring yourself, you're thinking constantly, you can change it, but you don't have time to focus on your body because you have to think about your work. You have to think about you have to work to bring money to pay the bills, the energy, the insurance. You are the system keeps your mind occupied. So, but if you don't have those kind of system that distract you, and you spend a little bit more time on yourself to focus on yourself, you can change it. So that's what happened as well. So when you are inside this that we call health units, that has elements like zinc, carbon, oxygen. Those elements help you to deal with emotions. When you don't have those emotions affecting you, creates an incredible environment that you feel, yes, I have emotions, but they don't affect me. I feel great. So your body starts responding. You are responding. You are focusing on your body to change the body, and you have the elements and the body start changing. This is the beauty of this technology. And they're helping you to block those emotions. You understand that you have those emotions, but it blocks the negative emotions, because also there's good emotions, bad emotions, hatred, sad. So are negative emotions, but also there's positive emotions like the happiness, joy.
I know the people, they have the copper zinc ratio, imbalance. They have more emotions, more in a stable, more sensitive, let's say. And when they incorporate the zinc, they're able to balance and not jump too much,
Yes. That's what we create environments. So we don't heal with those units that we build. Just create environments. So give you the elements, the that your body needs in order to change. If you have any disease or any problems, like give an example, you have an infection, if you are weak and you don't have the elements to fight the infections, then traditional medicine, you give you antibiotics, yes. But if you have certain elements to fight that disease, it will be easier and faster. Bring those elements around your field, your body field.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Estella. Okay, we have a question here from Alex. He says that 20% of energy from food is the difference between living and starving. That is to say that it appears that the 80% energy through our breathing is not enough for survival. Do we need to make a new definition of famine and starvation from a plasmatic perspective?
As I said, the fields, every layer of your body creates a different field, so attracts a different elements. So your body needs certain elements that not necessarily are in the environment in order to feed yourself. If you need certain proteins or vitamins, to say so they're not in the environment, so you need to go through the food. But we can create that environment with those elements. If you need some kind of vitamins or proteins, we can have it, create a plasma out of that, and put as a plasma close to you as an energy, so it will absorb. Your body absorb whatever, that 80% of the energy, but not necessarily all the elements that your body needs come through the skin, because they are not in the environment. That's why we need food. But as I said, we can change that. Is that clear? That makes sense? Alex?
That was a write-in question.
Okay.
We have another question from Katya. Do we only have organs to attract the things we need from the environment to create a balance in the body?
Well, those not necessarily from the environment, but inside the organs that are inside attract the elements in order to have a normal functionality. So, like every organ inside, it needs like a bone. It needs calcium, attracts the calcium from the food. The calcium, the energy of the calcium, and the body transform that energy of calcium to a matter state, so it can change it as a brick and put them inside the bone. So attracts from the food, but also every organ has a different function, so attracts different elements inside the body, not the environment. Or you can see the environment inside the body. So it brings through the blood system or through the field of energy that's around that organ. So every organ has a different function in order to keep balance in the whole system.
Okay, thank you. Another question here from Waldia. Please, can you explain me very quickly how the body absorbs this 80% of energy from the environment?
Yes, as I said, the same way that when we had the interaction, let me give you this example. The same as we said, what is inside is outside. The interaction with the sun and earth, that feels, the sun has a magnetic gravitational field, the earth has a magnetic gravitational field. When they interact, creates light, but also, and that interaction brings elements inside earth. Every single cell of your body, between one cell and the other, it has magnetic gravitational field. It creates that energy that attracts elements. So depending what kind of energy is interacting, those cells attracts those elements. So your skin, every single cell of your skin, every single layer of your skin has a different cells. And that is interaction fields. It creates magnetic or gravitational field. It's like having a magnet. You have two magnets, and you want to interact with each other. If you put in some way that if you don't see the connections, but repel each other, and you change it and attracts. Why is attraction? You don't see anything, but because there's a field around that. So the same way the cells create a field that brings elements that the body needs. If the skin attracts certain elements, and to go more deeper, we attract. Have you questioned yourself how we create energy in the body? So if we attract 80% of the energy, like carbon, normally what we attract through the skin is carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen. Yes, interact with the body. In the body, inside the body, we say at the outset, 70% of the body is water. What does it have to do with this? So when your body constantly attracting those elements, carbon, so the carbon you absorb interact with the carbon of the cells. The oxygen as well interact with the oxygen of your body. When you attract hydrogen, the molecule of hydrogen, and interacts with the water of your body, when it interacts, releases one hydrogen that is constantly making energy. That's the way you have energy all the time. Yes, you're forming energy in your body. It's constantly just energy because you say, oh, I breathe, I feel under the sun, I feel the energy, I feel incredible good, because the hydrogen that comes from the atmosphere, from the environment, goes through the skin and interacts with the water and releases one hydrogen, and that's the energy you have constantly. That's the way we create energy in the body.
Yes, thank you. Okay, the next question here from James on YouTube is, what is the role of all of the different kinds of microorganisms in the lower intestine and on the skin?
The same way, there's symbiosis that we need that energy of those microorganisms inside the intestine in order to create the different kinds of energy and break down those elements that your body needs. So that's a symbiosis inside on your body with those microorganisms. But in the future, I mean, not just the future doesn't mean tomorrow, in 2 years. In the future, when we understand all those fields, we won't need not even those bacteria. In the space, if you travel in the space, you don't need bacteria. You have to be clear, you won't have. So we have to create an environment that environment has all the elements that your body needs. We can create a feeding environment. We can create those around that field has everything that your body needs, everything that you usually find on the food. We can create that. We know how to do it now, but we can create a bigger environment. When you are in the spaceship, you have to travel, you create that environment. But we're starting to make that environment here at home. So that environment is around the house, and you're absorbing those elements that your body needs. So, and little by little, your body starts changing, transforming, adapting itself to the new environment. It will happen in many, many years that eventually we won't need the digestion system. We won't need to eat anything. But as I said, it will take time. It's going to happen tomorrow. That's part of the evolution of the race, human race, evolution. Not in this one, it will affect eventually if we create that environment outside, it will affect as well as the animals. So the animal will need to kill to eat, to feed themselves. They will feed themselves through the environment. So we can change that environment that will affect the whole system. I mean, system, everything that is in the planet. animals, humans, everything. That's the future. So if you create those environments, you can go outside in space. It will be easier. You don't have to have a special place in the spaceship to store food. You don't need to. Because now, and this is present, we can create fields of food. We can create plasma of food. And that plasma, that gans of food, lasts forever. And you put it in a little patch and put yourself that patch, and that's forever. Just a little space. You don't need to store anything. You travel from one city to another. You can create, you have those, you can put in a vial that will teach you how to make it, put in the vial or a patch, and you put yourself that patch in your skin and absorb the energy. That energy that you create of the food is permanent. So if you put that patch on your skin, it's absorbing those elements. So you're feeding yourself through that element. You don't need to carry any food when you travel. You go camping, you don't have to come. And it is now. You're adapting yourself, you're adapting your body to that. Inside the body, what we see now, yes, we're starting to create plasma of food that you feed in yourself, but still we have the emotion involved that we have to choose something, we have to eat. So that changes, that transforming your body will happen. Eventually will happen, but it requires years. Or some people like Breatharian, they went through certain kinds of disciplines to change their body. So it requires time. It's not that it's going to happen in 1 or 2 days, 1 year. It requires time. But the beauty of this is that we have the technology. We start to understand this technology to change everything. So we have it. It's not like, it's in a movie, it's a science fiction. No, it's real. But we have to understand how to deal with this technology, to understand it technology, so you can deal with that. You can make those changes. Now it's available for everybody. To everybody can understand how to create this environment that we need. So simple and easy. But it's important for you to understand how to do it. It's easy to create, but we're starting with new technology. So in the future, we'll have better environment. We'll have better bodies. We don't age. We will be able to live longer with no diseases. Aging is a process of degeneration. So we can change that too. So, but we have to understand it's a new technology, but it's available for everybody. Now we don't have to go to the university. We don't have to go to special schools. For now, it's a beautiful gift from Mr. Cash.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Flint, I think we have to watch our time.
Yeah, I know we have another 4 questions lined up here.
Yeah, we'll be here all day again. So we have to call it. We'll do one last question. We just keep it short.
Okay. The next one in line was Kayvon.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing? I'm going to keep it short. Dr. Rodrigo, you remember when Mr. Kesh talked, I mean, this is such a groundbreaking and evolutionary knowledge, knowing where the representative seed of our soul is, in the middle, right in the hollow, empty space of our brain. I think a lot of people haven't still grasped that. And once Mr. Kesh said, the smaller even this hollow, empty space is, which is probably smaller than a pea-sized thing, is actually more powerful or something like that, in his own words. Can you explain that? Why does it have to do with because the gravitational center or the principal field strength are stronger, which we can interact with and radiate out or absorb the totality of the spectrum? Thank you.
Yes. So people have to understand, and it's hard for a lot of people to understand. There are the souls, there are the spirit. We are not bodies. We are souls having a body experience, not a body having a spiritual experience. So, and we are located in that part of the brain. There's a strong field that interacts with the field of the body. There's a strong field, just a connection. When that, as you understand, when that field of energy between the center of the brain and the rest of the body changes or is affected severely, that's what death comes. So we lost connection with the body. And that's when we have that disconnected and we leave the body. That's what we see when somebody dies, the soul leaves the body because it lost that connection, that strong field that happened disappeared. There's no longer, because it's a certain disease or certain degeneration of the whole body, that the fields, the strength of that fields diminish, it's losing. So, and you have that strong field inside of you that you wanted to interact with the rest of the body, and it lost that balance. You can no longer sustain that energy. Let's put it in. If that is, there's a way to understand the body, the mitosis or division of the cells. When there is a lot of strength inside the center, the core of the cells, when it, and related to the environment, what that field, there's a balance between the outside and inside, but it becomes stronger. There's a division of the cells, which becomes stronger. A stronger field is a division to bring balance in that environment. But also when we break that balance, the opposite, negatively, so we don't have energy outside, the center cannot sustain with the outside, it has to be released. So the soul is yourself, is inside the body, controlling the whole system, controlling the whole body. Have the experience. It's like having the car. You have the car, the body is the car, and you are controlling, you are in the steering wheel. You are inside the brain controlling that car. And when that field disappeared, or there's no longer balance in that field, has to be released. That's when you leave that body. Ready for the next experience. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you indeed. Thank you.
Okay, we do have 2 or 3 other questions here, but kind of running out of time. So I do apologize, we haven't gotten to those yet. Thank you, Dr. Rodrigo. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Dr. Rodrigo. We know it's very early in the morning there for you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, in the second part, we're going to look at nature and how we can learn from nature and understand this plasma. So just as a quick view, we understand that everything in this universe is made of the fields, and we've understood the principle of magnetical and gravitational fields, or what we commonly term as the MAGRAV fields. And all life on planet is made from the basic amino acid structure, which is your carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. And as Dr. Rodrigo explained, the human body is made of ganses, so the plant world and all other animals are also made of ganses, forming a total plasma of the plant. So when we have a little bit of a deeper look at the plant's growth and how they move, we can say that plants really have a mainly vertical life with a little bit of horizontal life. So the plant's motion is mainly vertical because we see that they grow upwards with their stems and their branches, and then their roots grow downwards into the soil. But it is also partially horizontal in that their branches and leaves do grow out sideways, and the same with the roots as well, going out sideways. Now, when you compare us as a human being, we have 2 arms and 2 legs. So when you look at the plants, they have multiple arms as their branches, and then as their roots, they have multiple legs. It's just they do not walk horizontally as what we do, but they're essentially the same. And what plants have been able to do is to understand their environment around us, and they have really a far better understanding of this environment in which they live, because the plants have learned to use the energy of the environment and at the same time use the magnetic field of the environment for their growth. And the plants have chosen where they want to live, whether it's by the sea, in the desert or in mountains. The plants choose exactly where the conditions will be right to suit their growth. And plants also have different time cycles, time scales, whereas the lettuces and vegetables that we grow, maybe 8, 12, 16-week cycle. But we've seen trees that are hundreds of years, even thousands of years old. So all the different plants and creatures in the plant world have sort of live on a different time scale. So we need to understand that their time scales is far different to us as a human being. And for a plant to be able to live for 2,000 years in one place, they need to choose their position very, very carefully, because they can't just get up and move to another spot if it doesn't suit them. So the plants have learned to read and understand their environment to ensure that they can live in that spot for hundreds of years. And this is why we have the different plants in different parts of the world, is because they have learned to adapt to their environment. They've learned to adapt to the different places on Earth where there are different magnetic gravitational fields which they can learn to live with. So we got plants in deserts when we have plants under the ocean. It's just different conditions that they're happy to live in. We as a man, we have not understood our environment the way that the plants do. And so we just change and destroy our environment to suit our needs, regardless of any other creatures around us. So in that sense, we're far, far less educated than the plants in using and understanding the environment on this planet. But with this technology, we are beginning to understand and learn. So we have a lot to learn from the plant world. So the plants use the energy of the environment and at the same time use the magnetic or gravitational fields of the environment for their growth, for their energy. And as we've discovered with the human body, as the human body, we are only interacting with the fields from our food. So we have the same situation with the plants, that the plants are not absorbing any matter state from the soils or the environment. They only interact with the fields. Now, this is quite a hard concept to understand for a lot of people, because we are so used to throwing compost and fertilizer into our soil, and we thinking this is what is making the plants grow. So to try and understand that statement that the plants are only using the fields around them for their energy, we have to look at that statement in relation to this tree. Now, this particular tree is over 100 years old and has been living in that same spot all this time. So it's that same patch of soil. And you'd think by now that maybe this tree has used up all the nutrients that were in that soil at the time, because it's used up all those nutrients around its roots. And yes, the roots have grown and they've moved sideways in the soil, but 100 years is a long time, so surely it would have used up all the nutrients. And we do have leaves falling down, creating a bit of a compost base that could nourish the soils again. But in this example and many other examples, there's a road paved over a lot of its roots area. So how can we really explain the growth of this tree and many others like it, which are even older, where they're only just sitting in one spot in that soil, if they're only taking the matter, using the matter from the soil, the nutrients from the soil? So where is she getting her nutrients, or where is she getting her energy from? That's the question. So the vertical people are obtaining the majority of their nutritional needs, or we call energy, from the fields all around them. The needs of this old tree, as we've said, will be very different to the needs of a quick-growing crop like a lettuce, but essentially they're all the same. And we've got to look at every leaf, every branch is interacting with the field. So it's just one huge reactor that's interacting with these fields around us. So we're going to look a little bit closer at how the plants connect to these fields, how they interact with their environment. And as we've said, plants have a magnetical and gravitational field, and each plant will have a different field strength. So if you've looked in your garden and around, you'll see that each plant species has different shapes of leaves, the arrangements on their branches, the size, they're all different. And all of these produce different maggraph fields for the plants. So when we have a look at picture on the left there, we're looking at parsley. Look at the shape of the leaves there. You look at the passion fruit. So every plant, the leaf is structured differently. When one looks at the way that the leaves are arranged on the stems, you can see on the left that some of the leaves they're arranged opposite each other. There's whorled arrangements where they all just rotate sort of around each other. And then on some branches, the leaves are alternate. And each one of these configurations creates different fields. Even when one looks very closely at the edges of all the leaves, each and every edge or point on the leaf is interacting with the fields. So even down to its minute detail of the plant, every point is then interacting with the fields around it. So the plants have really learned to adapt and use its environment. On these other plants, you can look, these are thicker leaves. They are simpler leaves from a cacti, able to survive with very little water, because essentially they're using the fields from the environment to create the water that they need within their plant, within their leaf structure. So we look at the different arrangements of the leaves and the shapes, all create different maggraph fields, and these all interact differently with the fields around the plants. We even have to look at the different height of the plants. You get ground covers or shrubs that are very low to the ground interacting with Earth's fields there. You get your taller shrubs to the very tall trees. And each level is all interacting with the fields on a different basis. And each one is creating its own different magnetic or gravitational field. And just coming back to why we have that variety of, when you go and walk in a forest, you have all these varieties of plants around you, and you are interacting with those fields of plants. So you are interacting with different fields from the different plants all the time. And so it's very different if you go and walk through a field of just corn. You're not getting that same effect because you are only interacting with one type of field strength there is from your corn plant. Whereas in your forest, you've got 50, 100 different varieties, all with different strengths. So each plant, according to its height, shape, its leaf arrangements, the color, thickness, all create different magnetic field strengths of that plant. And then they're able to attract and create from the environment the fields of the elements that they need for their energy, for them to live. So now we can come on back to the picture of the beautiful tree there. And I really now understand that that whole area that you see, it's a massive, massive area, is one huge reactor. It's interacting with the fields around it. And we have to try and look a bit deeper into this field flow that we see around the plants, because the bottom leaves, you often see on a lot of plants, the bottom leaves cool down and feed back this energy to the root area. The upper leaves are receiving new energies from the environment and also feed these back down to the root area. So we have a flow of energy from the top to the bottom and constantly flowing. And we also have the roots receiving fields from the earth and from the soil. So we have this huge interaction. We don't see it, this flow of energy, because we only see the tree itself, but there is this huge flow of energy and interacting with the fields around them. And we see that everywhere, the same as the fields on our planet. So the flow of this energy is in every structure. It's in the rocks, the bacteria, the cells, the animals, plants. It's everything that we see. We see this flow of the energy. So well, from this, we can say that the plants are receiving a very small part of their energy in the fields from the ground, but the majority of their energy that they use and need is from the environment above the soil. And that's where all you have the leaves interacting with the fields from the environment. You have huge reactors interacting from the environment there. And the same idea and structure of the field flow can be equated to, we've got to look at the fruit of the plants on exactly the same basis. So from your apple to your peach, to your beetroot, to your pineapple, your pumpkin, it's the same, that you get this nice flow of energy constantly flowing with the environment, interacting with the environment all the time. And as a leading to next week's topic, where we're going to be talking about the production of CO2 gas, I'd like a lot of you to go outside and have a look at the plants, but specifically go and have a look at the leaf structure of the plant, because you'll notice that the one side of the plant is very shiny, and then underneath it's sort of a very matte surface. And begin to understand that the leaf is also made of different layers. And just as Dr. Rodrigo explained in the body, there's a reason for all those layers to interact with the fields. And so we will explain this in further detail when we look at the whole method of CO2 production in next week's workshop. So to summarize, the plants are living reactors, and the plants are very advanced beings in using the fields to obtain their energy. And they are essentially using 100% of the energy from the fields. They are not having to kill what we do to obtain additional energy. And the plants have understood their environment. They've become masters of their environment. And there is this constant field flow, which we don't see, but that's how everything is interacting with everything else. Questions?
Yes, okay. We have a question from Nicholas Morrow.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Nicholas.
Yes, this question, I'm not knowing if it's appropriate right at this point, but my question comes in relationship to geometry or patterns, and you know how these let's see how I put it into a question. It seems that within the environment of the plant, the fields have a pattern. And my question is how can we understand the plasma fields in relationship to patterns, geometries, for instance? You see it in the crystallization of the different ganses or the different elements. You see different geometric patterns. You see different geometric patterns in ice crystals and whatnot. And so the trees apparently have their own patterns that they've generated in their fields. And could one speak to that in relationship to the plasma energies and how they're different?
It's a good question, Nicholas, and a very good observation there. There is patterns. That's why the plants are all different. You know, when you look at a human being, we all are the same, slight variance. But when you look at the plant world, there's hundreds of thousands of really different structures to the plants. And it's our job to start learning from the plants. I think they have a lot to teach us about the plasma and the flow. And so, you know, we can't go into it today, but yes, that's a whole other area that one needs to look at. So we need to look at the plant world and learn from them, because they're there showing us. It's right in front of us.
I guess, you know, adding to that then would be how we as human beings then affect these fields, you know, the structure, the geometry of the fields through our emotions and through our thoughts. Some say that what we think creates the reality around us, you know, that our thoughts and our emotions create that reality. So they're actually creating an environment in which not only we live, but also the plants live. And so when we go into our gardens and whatnot, and we play music, which has certain frequencies and patterns in a certain way, emotions, or we bring certain feelings to it, or we bring certain thoughts to the environment, we see that it affects our plants. So we, in our thinking and our feeling, affect the mangrove fields and are a part of that environment, and vice versa. The plants, when they're healthy, affect our mangrove fields, which are a part of our environment.
Yes, it makes us begin to realize that we're just not affecting ourselves, but we do have an impact on everything around us. And there's this constant flow of fields between us and the plants and every other creature, and vice versa. There's this huge interaction. So we need to become very much more aware of how we operate and what impact we are having on our environment, so that we just don't go through life almost oblivious to what is out there.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Estella here. She has a question. Hello, Estella.
Okay. Okay, I was thinking when you were explaining the human body and also the plants, it seems like you know, how the magnets, you know, they have the gravitational and the magnetic, you know, repulsion or connection. In the chemistry is in the same way. For example, it's been proven that if a person works with the plants generate more chemicals with the person. There is a symbiosis connection, and the plants provide to the human what the human needs. And I have, maybe it's a silly question, but I want to know why. I mean, the plants, they're connected to the earth through the roots, but somehow I feel, you know, we are connected to the earth by the gravitational attraction, and the mass of the earth or the strength of the magnet of the earth is stronger, so we're able to stand, right, and walk. But don't we also receive a magnetic field interaction? You know, the feel of the earth, they give us something that we are here for that reason, because if we go to space, we're not going to have that gravitational connection. So is that the point of being matter, that we receive the mass because we are connected to the earth?
Thanks. There's quite a few questions in there. No, it's all right. Yeah, we have our physical connection is to earth, and we do have a field connection. And you got to understand that the plants and us are all made from the same building blocks on this planet, which is the carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. So on amino acid sort of structure, that's how we connect to the plants very well. And we connect to plants on our emotional level. So it's not on a physical level like we can talk to plants, but it's more on an emotional level. So it's just the field interaction between us and the plants, and we feed the plants and they feed us.
Yeah, that's like the magnets. They are connected somehow.
Because we've got the same amino acid structure as a baseline on this planet.
What I was trying to say is like the way how we interact with them is somehow like the magnet, you know, the fields are connecting, and somehow in that connection you receive the, you know, that gravitational, would be emotional, or an emotional connection is also gravitational.
Well, emotional, which leads on to the next part on the soul side, we've got to understand all our emotions have a magnetical and gravitational field strength. And so we're interacting all the time with these fields from the plants and vice versa.
So the plants have soul?
Yes.
So basically you not only have a connectional, magnetical and gravitational, you have a third connection, which is at the soul level.
Yes, we'll go into that on later workshops in bit more detail on that one. But yes, we have that. Our connection with the plants is on an emotional level.
Okay. And what about also with the earth? We will have a connection, magnetical and gravitational, and also at the soul level.
Yes. You know, at the moment, because we're in a physical body, we have the direct connection with the earth in terms of the fields. But when we are just as the soul will have its connection as well. But we're not going to be heavily attracted to this planet in that sense. But we will always have that connection because we have a connection to everything in the universe. But that's a leading to the next parts with the soul. So you can ask your question again.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Is there anybody else that has any questions for Jim here?
Well, Jim, this is Nicholas again. So in terms of going into the next phase of talking about the emotion, when we're speaking of the environment, very much of it seems to resolve around the interaction of the matter state, which are these four elements, which are actually a matter state. If one wants to think of it as elements being a matter state. And the emotion, which is not a matter state, and the plasma fields, which are somehow an interaction between the two, a link, say, between the non-physical and the physical. Because even when we're speaking about the environment, we're speaking about these four elements, even within the body, we're speaking.
No. What about the idea of GANs? GANs is not the same state as the matter level of just those four elements as matter level. And when you start talking about the GAN state, then all of a sudden you're interacting with emotion and soul, and the whole picture starts to become involved with it. Until you get into the GANs part, it's just an element. And it's not just, we don't have a bunch of elements inside of our body. In fact, our body rejects elements, but it accepts and incorporates them as GANs, as a GANs material, but we don't like elements inside of our body, right? Our body rejects when they try to put artificial parts in and so on. They have to have special anti-rejection drugs and so on to keep you from rejecting titanium parts and so on and so forth.
Exactly. The place that we get to play is in the transition between the two.
As Mr. Kesh says, and as was in the shown in the previous part of this today's demonstration here, as the food, which is in a GAN state, goes into our mouth, there's no, even if it was matter level going into our mouth, by the time it's chewed and mixed with the GANs, juices of our body and so on, it becomes converted into a GAN state. So it is no longer of the matter level as such. We absorb the fields, as was shown in the picture of the stomach that Rodriguez showed us there. And we absorb the fields, not the matter level. there might be some matter level interaction. I don't know, but that's Mr. Kesh seems to be of the understanding that when the food goes in our mouth, it becomes GANs by the time it gets to the stomach, essentially, or at least through the stomach. And then once it's in the GAN state, then it can become a plasma that we can extract the plasma energy from inside of our body. And then from that, go back into the GAN state and into even the matter level state and out the other end of the body. That's the way I understand it anyway.
So thank you, Rick. Thank you very much. So there was a question before, it kind of ties in now. Why are breatharians able to survive like a plant?
It's a good question.
Mr. Kesh,
a lot of it comes down to our emotion, I think, in terms of our attachment to food is very much emotional. And so we need to overcome that attraction to the food on that emotional level. Because if you think we sit around the table with family and we have a nice meal, we go out and socialize with people and we'll have a meal. So there's a lot of emotions attached to us eating. And so we have to address that side of it.
Yeah, eating's very emotional for a lot of us.
So that's a big part that a lot of us, all of us have to sort of overcome to get to that level.
There's a story about that Mr. Kesh had a guru visit him, that the guru was famous for going without food, for fasting for weeks at a time. And when he visited, Mr. Kesh apparently confronted him and said, you don't go without food. You're eating every day. You're eating the air and impressions that you're breathing, and that's how you eat. And the yogi had to admit that that was true, and that he'd actually been kind of fibbing a little bit, saying that he was going without food, when in actuality he was eating, but it's a different kind of eating more directly of the fields, you could say. But it's still a type of absorbing and eating and taking in fields.
At the end of the day, we just eat to get energy, which in the field state. So how we can change that to not eat something and rather take the feels in from the environment, and that's the difference. So
yes, some people do sun gazing, for example, and I've heard people tell me they can get quite a bit of energy actually from that practice. It has to be done correctly, of course, and so on. But
well, it stands to reason, when you in summertime, when it's quite hot, we don't eat a lot of food. We sort of can go with eating very little, whereas in wintertime, because we're not getting a lot of the energy from the environment, we tend to eat a lot in wintertime. So it's because we're not getting enough of the feels from our environment. Okay, let's carry on with the next part, and I'll hand you over to Lisa.
Yes, thank you, Jim and Rick.
Hi, everybody, and it's time for the soul now. So we're going to have a little recap of what we did last time with the soul. And in our first part, we managed to understand that we're a reactor and we're a plasma being. And I think now we understand that quite well. And as Dr. Rodrigo showed earlier, when we have a look at the principal field in the center, we have that really strong primal field, and that is our soul. And the outer edges of the field, as it unwinds, shows itself as a physical entity, and that's our body. And in between are the fields connected to the emotion. And so we have to look at this as the way every plasma is, including our physical selves and our soul and our body. So we also showed the last time that the soul sits in the center of the brain. It's a non-physical principal field. And emotions are on the inner layers of the brain. That is where our emotions sit. If you hook somebody up to some kind of a machine, which they do have, and you ask people to work on their emotions, you'll find that all the little computer screen lights up in the center where all the emotions are shown. And then the brain actually controls the physical body more on the outer edges of the outer layers of the brain, which controls all the physical bits. So the soul creates the physical body in this environment of Earth, and the environment creates the physical body due to the conditions of the planet. And this is the same as our GANS box, where the interaction of the fields between the plates in the salt water condition creates the type of GANS we want. So the creator field, which is our soul, creates a human being. So that was just from last time, so that we can remember how to now move into the next part. We also saw the round magnets, and we saw that every living entity is like a 3D version of a round magnet, and we give and receive fields continuously. And this means that we impact everything around us, even when we don't realize it. And this is why we need to start looking at ourselves as souls and field reactors and how we impact everything around us. We have the principal field, and it's at the core of our brain, and this essence of us is the creator, and our soul is the creator of ourselves. We create our physical body and our experience of reality every second of every day. And this is quite important to realize, because it's our perception of what we're dealing with every day that makes our reality what it is. So now we need to understand how we're interacting with each other. And if we have a look at the field interaction between two people at a soul level, we instantly connect, and we give and we take. This is where we have the infinity loop, and our fields of our soul are coming out and just going everywhere all the time, and they are allowing others around us to take what they need, and by the same token we are receiving as well. So two people, when they interact on a soul level, are feeding each other. It's not a one-way flow, it's always a flow back and forth. And the principal field of our souls come from the same source. So this means everything and every being has that principal field of the creator, which comes from the same source. And that means we have within us the fields of the universe. And when the same fields strengths match, they can be given out and taken in freely. So the more we give, allowing for an abundant flow of fields coming back in as well as going out. So I just put a little open hand here, because I always try to illustrate this with an open hand. If you're holding on so tight to something and you're afraid to give it away, your hands are never open to receive. So we know that when we give out and open our hands, things can flow back to receive as well. And this is exactly what we do with our soul, because every other being it doesn't matter what it is, has the principal soul of the creator within it. If you just give from your soul to that being, you will create connection and a flow. And it will happen because we are all the same at the essence. So how does it work? We give from our soul unconditionally, and this is what we call love. You know, love comes in many ways. We talk about love with many different adjectives, and love is many things, but ultimately it is giving. And these are all MAGRAV fields, magnetical and gravitational fields. And our emotions act as filters of these fields, which are the fields of the soul. And this is where we need to understand that unconditional love means giving without any expectation or conditions on who receives and what you expect back. Because giving freely of these fields to wherever they may need to go is going to result in a couple of things. You ensure those around us remain vital, happy, and strong. In giving, we open to receive, which allows us to become vital, happy, and strong. And we create a peaceful coexistence where we all can grow and benefit. And this is the point of the unconditional love, because putting conditions on things make for difficult times. Why are we not doing this? Our emotions and thoughts act as filters for these fields. We manifest physically and live in this physical world, and we create many filters to block these fields going out and coming in. And this changes the field strength of the fields we give and receive. Those fields that we would normally send out from our soul are somehow changed because they've been filtered through this emotional state. From the time we're born and our parents put us in one corner of the room, and actually we'd like to have been in the other corner of the room because we wanted to look at something and we couldn't see it, and we start getting frustrated and angry and maybe a little sad, and all of these things start building layers onto ourselves, and this starts clogging up. I can only call it clogging up because I'm not quite sure what that term would be, but we start clogging up the gaps like we would have in a nanolayer to be able to pass the fields through. We start clogging up the gaps. So the field interaction between two people has these emotions acting as filters, and suddenly the fields of the soul are not quite getting through as they were before. And so this is why we need to start understanding our emotions and how they act as filters, and thoughts too. Our thoughts and emotions go out, which is magnetical, and come back gravitational. So thoughts and emotions are MAGRAV fields and have a specific strength. So we're creating with our thoughts all the time, and imagining something leads to the creation and intention, and we create the world that we want. So this is what we have to understand, and that's why we have to take responsibility for a lot of things that are going on with us all the time. And this is where we come on to the conscious intent. And this is very important when we understand plasma. Conscious intent allows for conscious creation every minute of your life. Intention to give for the benefit of every being is creating elevation for everyone. And because a person's emotional field strength is unique, it has to be given out unconditionally to any who need it and can use it. Putting conditions on giving creates problems as to what is really received and what flows back to you. If you understand an emotional field strength of you is unique, what makes me angry doesn't necessarily make you angry. What makes me comfortable or happy doesn't necessarily make you feel that way. So everything I give out has a different little element of different fields. And so I just have to give it freely, because maybe you want it, maybe you don't. And I can't force you or need you or make you take it. And I can't expect anything in return. It just needs to go out It needs to go where it needs to go and have no expectation of anything coming back at all, and no expectation of that person receiving it either. So intentions and emotions are captured in all plasma devices, and those are the things that you create. So when you're creating your devices, please intend for health, intend for wellness, set the condition for the highest benefit to all who use your creations. And this is the only way that we can operate from now on, because we understand that we're all part of the totality, and that means we all need to look after each other, because we all in essence are the same. So this just brought up creating with our intentions, our different plasma devices, but positive thoughts projected onto the water create various beautiful patterns. We've seen this with Emoto, and so I thought it might be quite nice to have a look here. We also found beautiful patterns in water when you freeze it, when you use musical tones. And in nature, if you look at the bottom picture, crystals appear to form inorganic patterns when you freeze water, being imprinted with the fields of the gaseous part of the planet, as well as the plants and nature around them. So I thought it was good to just suggest that some have and some haven't know about the research of Masaru Emoto on how consciousness affects water. And this is exactly what we're doing with our plasma devices as well as literally, if you're creating GANS waters to give to people, understand that if you intend for the benefit of and give them a specific intent, that you're creating the field in that water as well. And so it's not just the GANS in the water that you are giving to those people, but it's also your intention that creates the healing and the health and the wellness and the happiness and whatever other things you might desire for the people that you give the GANS waters to. So please remember that the more we give out, the more we receive, because we create more flow. And this is really, really important. This is the way we're going to improve ourselves and elevate ourselves, is to create more flow by giving. And the more we give unconditionally, which is magnetical, the more will be given back to us, which is gravitational, at our soul strength level. And so that's quite important to understand. And that's why all the intentions have to be correct when we work with our plasma. And also when we understand that every second of every day, we need to consciously give correctly. And when we deal with other people, we must know that they need our support and our correct soul fields, that we know that we're doing the right thing by everybody around us, including the animals and the plants. So now I'm going to take some questions.
Anybody have any questions for Lisa? You can always raise your hand if you're an attendee. If not, I have a couple from before. There's a Stephen that had asked, do the feeding units feed the soul? And if so, how can the soul be expanded by plasma? Or by the plasma of the feeding units?
I'm sure the feeding units would feed the soul, for the simple reason that every single plasma structure, down to the tiniest little, literally the tiniest atomic element, every single thing has a soul as well. And so if we're creating GANS waters from the GANSes or feeding stations, they would be putting the fields, the soul level fields in there as well. And so, yes, I'm sure they do. although the soul level, if we have learned from Mr. Kesh, is at a field strength of iodine, which is something one can explore looking at in terms of your Ganses as well.
Okay, thank you. Another question here was, is the soul playing a role in the processing or absorbing of fields?
Oh, yes. If we were purely living on it from a soul and the field's perspective, we wouldn't, there would be no physical body and there would be no emotional filters in between. So everything we're doing continuously is the soul is the creator of you. And so everything you do every minute of the day is through the soul, which is the creator. So whatever you intend, and the more you start using your intuition and understanding that you're creating and using this, you'll start understanding that you can do anything. So, it becomes, the more you use your soul to do these things, the more you'll realize that your physical body is at the command of your soul. We haven't realized it yet.
Okay. I think Masvek had a question.
I have a question.
Oh, it's Nicholas. Okay.
Hi, Nicholas.
Yeah, Lisa, this comes this image just to clarify in your own words, in your own experience, this concept in a certain way, or the reality of unconditional love. Unconditional love in terms of giving and receiving, look at it as a condition, not as an action that one enters into as an entity with their soul, then it's a condition that exists within one's own soul. So in other words, one doesn't love unconditionally by giving, because the process of love is a giving and receiving. So if one is not giving without expecting, it's an individual thing. It's something that one holds within their own soul and in a certain way offers up for an interaction of another soul. So if you're understanding what I'm saying, to experience from the soul, one's not experiencing from the mind. We don't experience a sunset by going out into the sun, watching a sunset and saying in our mind, oh, how beautiful that sunset is. But the soul experience is there without words. It's beneath it. And same with unconditional love, is that it's an interaction that happens, not just a giving and giving to receive. One is just in that state of giving, and that's something one holds within their own field. If that makes any sense.
Yes, you're right. You're right. The problem is that, as we go through life, we start putting conditions on things, and we have to slowly start stepping back from our emotional responses and almost looking at ourselves from slightly a little bit of a back position and saying, why am I doing this? Is it from an emotional attachment? Is it to get something? Or, so we almost have to train ourselves just to be in the now, of always in the giving state, because it's not always there and immediately apparent if one tends to, all the time react in an emotional level or have interactions with others that somehow are going to gain us something, because, you know, even from a young age, we kind of get trained into these bad patterns. So it's just a case to start, you know, that being in the now is a really important one, to understand that you just be, and can, as you say, you're just in that condition all the time. But it takes a bit of training, because we really have picked up bad habits over the course of our lifetimes, I think.
So also then, Lisa, when to go back to something physical, when we look at our brain and we look at these different aspects of our brain, we find that in the brain there is the filtering system that is actually programmed. The reticular system, or the middle brain, the fight and flight, the fear, and that kind of thing, receives everything that we perceive or everything that comes to us, and it filters. So a process of this changing and elevating the soul is also a process of, in a certain way, reprogramming that actual neurological pathways that is a part of the filter system that is a physical part within the brain.
Yes, I suppose it is, you know, because we grow food aquaponically, and we have fish and so on with water, and there's filters involved and what have you. It's almost to me like taking your pump and blowing backwards through your filter so you get rid of all the crud. That's literally what we need to do to ourselves, because emotions and all the negative things that we experience are usually due to the fact that there are expectations that we had of something and they haven't been met. And that sets in some kind of negative emotion. So we need to just see it for what it is, start throwing it off and doing a little bit of blowing off of the crud. It's the only way I can explain it, which doesn't sound too good, but that's what we need to do.
So then this is then where the zinc oxide, then the zinc GANs helps, as it maybe neutralizes or sets aside these things that you're speaking about that get in the way as filters, or maybe even bypasses to a certain degree the programming in the reticular system, so that we can begin to experience balance and equanimity, and in a certain way even experience love as a field.
Yes, everyone experiences this using the zinc in a different way. I've heard many say that they slowly just are able to step back from themselves and view things a lot more on a level where they just say, okay, that's an emotion that I shouldn't be having. It's not necessary. So almost like a third person type of a scenario. There are others that have experienced some of those feelings bubbling up, but understand where they're coming from and are able just to deal with them and say, okay, it's enough. I don't need you anymore. Thank you. Goodbye. So there are various ways that people seem to start processing when they start using the zinc and CO2 GANs. And it usually takes a few weeks. It's, you know, and it's different, as I say, for everyone, but it is not the same as taking a pill. So it will not just numb you and things will just not happen. You literally have to kind of deal with it, but it's in a way that you can cope.
There's someone that had their hand up and would like to talk about this subject, and they're probably qualified, seeing that their last name is Love. So, maybe you'd like to talk.
Yeah, I've been working in this aspect, and So
can you get a little closer to your microphone, Estella, or it's hard to hear?
I think, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just keep on
Stop
talking
saying.
a little bit louder. Talk as if you're
Okay.
having a good
Yeah.
shout.
You might not have you may not have the correct microphone selected in Zoom. There's a way to select that with a little arrow beside the mute button, but that's for later. Okay, go ahead.
Let's see, audio settings. Yeah, I have the volume to the minimum. Is it better now? Is it better?
Yes,
Keep
yes,
going.
much
Keep
better.
going.
Thank you.
Better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
great. Thank you.
So I've been working in the emotional and also with the sync, but there are two aspects. One is the feel that helps you to balance the body, to be more aware and be able to detach when in any moment we're experiencing, let's say, an arisal of our emotions, but because you are calmer, you're able to see reactions that we have that we kind of regret later, let's say, right? But now understanding that the emotions limit our selves to have a good flow of the feel, right? And so that's when we can start to make the changes to be open to a new framework of our mind, because our mind is being structured by our, let's say, past, since birth, but all our experiences and the environment. Because the environment that we live today, they use the negative emotions like in the TV and the media to get our attention. So we are bombarded by all negativity, which is very difficult to filter. But once we know, the moment we learn about this, we can observe ourselves to start to make the changes. Instead to focus on the negative, you focus on the positive and open yourself to give more, because we know that's the nature of the soul. The soul wants to give. And it's a fulfillment very deep and very, it's love. You feel a bliss when you really help someone else. And when you start to exercise that, it will give you such a nice enrichedness that you want to give more. And so, but by the environment, we were, limited, and we have all these other emotions that we have to slowly, clear. I would call it transmute. Focus on the positive. If you have a negative experience, well, what are you supposed to learn? Instead to focus on the negative of the event, just focus on the positive of what you learn and move on to try to that don't happen again. But it's our responsibility and our actions would gonna make the transformation to elevate the soul. But it's a daily work, every minute. That's why being in the moment help us to be, aware of the body, of the emotional body, of the mind, even how you breathe, because, giving the good oxygen to the body. So everything is work, but it has a good backflow, it's elevate the soul. Everything goes out, come back, elevating the soul, because you're doing the right thing. So, I mean, we're talking like scientists, guys, it's all, chemistry and all that, but also we have to, be humans, and this is the part of being human, this learning experience, discover who we are, and we have a soul, and we learn in the wrong way how we interact with each other. We're supposed to transform the interaction to fulfill the soul. That's the whole mission here.
And if we can get rid of those negative emotions relating to whatever experience, then we don't attract those negative emotions again, because if you can let them go, they're not a magnet for something to constantly come in.
Can I share a personal experience?
Sure.
I had a dream where I was trying to go home and the bus was going backwards. And I live in the mountains, so basically I was going up the hill, but I was trying to go in the other direction. I said, why did I have that dream? And then a couple of days later, I figured it out that, yeah, I have the right intention, but the way how I was behaving was in the wrong way, you know? And how was that wrong way was being nagging, being focusing on the negative instead to, you know, try to create a change by using the positive, you know? And that was a big discovery for me, that I was living a program, you know, like I was always focusing on the negative. Like you say, oh, who didn't wash the dish, you know, nagging my kids. So simple things like that, which I changed it. The moment I identify that, I say, oh my God, you know, that's why I was going in a different way. And things are better. So that's what I want to share. Simple.
Yes, it is quite simple. Thank you. You know, we tend to get into habits, how we deal with other people, and it sets up the field flow that repeats and repeats and repeats. And if there's something negative there, then we have to sit back and just say, you know, what is it we need to change, and we'll change the whole interaction and the whole field flow of everything. And yes, I think the zinc tends to mature you a little bit in the way you deal with things. That's what I have discovered. It kind of, because it allows you that knowing, because your soul is the knowing. Your soul has the knowing.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anything else, Flint?
Yeah, just checking on some stuff over here. We have another hand up from Biboteng. I don't know how to pronounce that, but go ahead and talk. You should be in here in a little bit.
Hello, Lisa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Boniface here, California.
Hi, Boniface.
Thanks for your presentation. I don't know if you can answer this now, perhaps, but maybe you can consider it for one of the upcoming sessions on the operation of the soul. You know, there's this saying that was written on the temples back in the day, and the saying is, know thyself. Know thyself. I have a sneaking suspicion that it had to do with the operation of the soul. That's just a thought. Maybe you might give it some thought and see if it relates, and if so, you know, how you can expound on that for us.
Thanks, Boniface. My brain is already quite fried.
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of thinking.
Okay.
I can smell my brain's frying every so often.
That means you need to eat something.
No, maybe that means I don't need to think anymore.
All right. I appreciate your honesty.
I will try. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, there's another question in YouTube here. It's from Krasmir. Is the pulsation of the lungs and the heart, maybe meant heart, a connecting mechanism with the soul? What are the ways of accessing the soul? And is there an objective or criteria for that?
Unfortunately, yes, I do know that a pulse has something to do with creating the plasma flow. The flow needs the pulse to help to flow things. In terms of how this would create some kind of a shortcut to accessing the soul, at this point, we don't quite know. Neither actually do I want to take a shortcut. I'd like to do it the correct way, which is the giving. And I know that will get us to the elevation in the end. I don't think there are shortcuts. You know, like with a quick yoga practice here, or, you know, twist that bone over there and do this there. I don't think we're going to get away with that. We might have a little bit of help from plasma devices, but I don't think it's as easy as a shortcut like that. I think we're going to have to do a lot of soul searching and understand that we need to give, and that's where the elevation is going to come from.
Thank you. We have Hassan. Okay. Give me one moment here. Hassan, you have a question?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that beautiful teaching which is happening. It makes things clearer. What I wanted to say about the soul aspect, maybe it's a question, maybe it's can share about my daily lives, things happening to me. I was saying that I think that to build the trust has to be practiced, implemented in our daily lives. And when we decide to live with the minimum in physicality, like, things become clearer. When you start to get rid of then things become clearer and you start to feel your life getting better, feeling that peace in your heart. What I wanted to ask maybe Lisa, because of the soul aspect, is how to build the trust, maybe to suggest everybody to build the trust quicker so that they can make the jump without hesitation, without having to think about the tomorrow, the negative aspect of the tomorrow, the fear we got in us make us lose a little bit confidence. Thank you. That's what I want to ask.
Thank you. Yes, we need to start trusting ourselves. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. And trusting ourselves starts with listening to the little voice. And the more I listen to my little voice, the more I realize it tells me exactly what I need to know every minute of the day too. But we don't trust ourselves a lot. And just start listening to the little voice and give yourself room to hear the little voice, because often we don't. We're so busy every second of the day, and we're so busy talking that we're not listening. We need to listen a little bit more to the inside of us. And the more I trust that little inner voice, the more I realize that things start to flow amazingly, absolutely amazingly. I see it in everything I do. And I hadn't noticed it before, but I know that it is slowly working through my life, and that trusting that little voice is making things a lot simpler. and then you find direction, and then it's not difficult to jump. You can jump quite easily.
Well, it's so true. It's so true what you're saying. You just have to start to practice it, to start to taste the feeling of this. And I think that's why Mr. Kesh always emphasized on when he talked about the soul aspect, on none of you has understand, none of you has achieved. And I think that thing that he always emphasizes on it's the jump. Everybody has to trust, even if you don't want to build it. Maybe you can try one day to say that, yeah, now I want to give the trust to the soul and see how it happens in your daily lives. The connection is it flows like you said. It's so natural. It's infused. Thank you for your answer. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the good work you're making.
Thank you. Are we nearly done, Flint? I think maybe one more at most.
Yeah, I think Estella has some more comments here. You there, Estella?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, love is the main topic, and the first love is within ourselves, which everybody, has the first crisis. And if you're not loving yourself, you cannot have any relationship with anybody, because you project all your lack of love to others. So it's very important that know thyself is connected within yourself, and love and trust, and understand that trust is trust the feel that you, because your heart give you the intuitive knowing, the mind give you the rational knowing, but we are connected more to the soul through the heart, not through the mind. And that's what it's all about. Knowing that thyself is about that's you're not your mind, you are a projection of your soul. So as far as I know, if you really work on your self-esteem and your trust and respecting yourself, and then you start to be able to do that with the environment and be able to have healthy relationship with your friends and family and your loved ones. So is the first step.
Thanks, Estella. I think we're going to be done, Flint.
Oh, okay. I have one last one here.
Okay.
From Krasmir off YouTube. He asks, if there is a soul, there should be an ego as well? How are they connected? And how is the ego connected with the fields and the plasma?
Ego is not another one of those language terms that we've kind of assigned to this nebulous thing where we, how can I say, we perceive ourselves as more than somebody else, which is an incorrect assumption. And it's all in the language and the semantics, but I'm starting to not try to use those languages from before, because somehow they don't quite translate to the plasma knowledge precisely. So I try not to fit the plasma knowledge into the old terms, but I rather try and see if the old terms fit into the plasma knowledge. So I'm not going to talk about ego today, because that's just, yeah, we're going to go way off the plasma subject.
Okay, that's understandable. Yeah, and that'll be in the future, though.
Yeah, because it's just another term for, you know, thinking yourself as more than other people, which is, you know, I suppose a different way of looking at things. So we will discuss it in the future, but it's more going to be in the plasma way of looking at things.
Okay.
Okay, Flint, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you back to Jim. He can wrap up.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
All right. Thank you, Flint. Thank you, Rick. And thanks, Dr. Rodrigo, for presenting on the health again. And thank you for everybody participating today. It's great to have you, and we will see you next week.
Yes, next week. Same time, same place. So thank you everyone for coming. This is the Kesh Foundation Spaceship Institute's Public Teaching in English for Monday, October 16th, 2017. Understanding Plasma Science, Part 4, with the health, soul, and nature. And we'll exit here with some nice music, and we'll see you all next week. Actually, tomorrow afternoon is our next public teaching, the 10th One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace. That's at 4 p.m. Central European Time. So we'd also love to have you join us tomorrow afternoon on the same channel. Again, thank you, Dr. Rodrigo. And thank you, Jim and Lisa. We'll see you all soon.